Hey everyone, it's Ashley. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how I created a few cards using this one panel stamp set by Concord and 9th. I feel like Concord and 9th makes a lot of these really beautiful stamp sets that basically can be one stamp and your card is done, but they also include really beautiful little details in the stamp set with different stamps so that you can create something that looks different. I'm always a little iffy when I go to purchase stamp sets like this because I'm always wondering if my card is going to look like everybody else's or if I can create different looking cards with the same stamp set. I really prefer buying stamps that I know that I can use multiple times. So I just always want to make sure that I get the most mileage I can out of my supplies. So I'm going to show you how I did that with this stamp today. I am going to be using my Mini Misty because I do need to stamp this particular stamp a few times just to make sure that the bold black comes out and it's not splotchy or anything like that. So I have a piece of 4 by 5 1/4 cardstock here in my Mini Misty, and I'll be using Memento ink because I am going to be Copic coloring on this first card. And you'll see after I lift this that the first impression leaves a bit of a light splotchy impression. The black there in between the letters isn't as bold as I'd really like it to be. So I stamp it one more time, and then just to be safe, I stamp it again, but I probably would have been okay only stamping it 2 times. As I have in my previous videos, I'm going to put a little bit of music on while I'm coloring. I just feel like some people might really enjoy watching the coloring happen. I do speed it up quite a bit. I will put the colors that I use on the screen, and I will let you know that I go from darkest to lightest, and I usually try to use 3 shades at least. So I'll do darkest, a mid-tone, and then the lightest tone. So that is that for the coloring on the card. And at this point, after you adhere it to your card base, you could be completely done. This is the beauty of a stamp like this. So I'm taking a piece of 110-pound cardstock cut at 4 1/4, and I'm going to score it at 5 1/2 to make a top folding card. I'm also going to adhere the front panel or the card front, which is the stamped cardstock, with some foam tape, and I just run it along the edges. Normally I do a little bit in the center. I didn't this time just because the cardstock doesn't have really anything on it. There's no embellishments like Nuvo drops or sequins or anything like that, so I tried to keep it nice and simple and light in case I needed to mail it to a friend. And I adhere it, and that is it. This card looks beautiful as it is, but let's say you wanted to add a little bit of something else. So I'm going to show you here how I do that. This stamp set comes with a couple of accoutrement stamps, I guess. So these stamps are exactly the flowers that are on the bigger stamp. They're just able to stamp them separately so that you can die cut them with these coordinating dies. So I'm going to do that now and cut them out, and then you'll see I'll adhere them to the card front later, and it just gives a little bit more of a more sophisticated or more intricate look. And if you have the time to put into the card to make it a little bit more intricate, this is a perfect opportunity to do so, but it's not necessary. And I think that's really the beauty of these stamp sets, is that if you needed it last minute, kind of forgot about somebody's birthday or something that you needed to give somebody, you could just stamp the one stamp and be done. And with the added stamps, you can keep adding sort of to make it a little bit more intricate and as detailed really as you want it to be. So I'm going to add these 3 separate stamps with foam tape so that they pop off of the paper. I decided to go ahead and color them the same color, but you could always switch up the color or emboss it if you really wanted to give it a little bit of a different look. You'll see I didn't color all the way down on the leaf stamp or with the die, and that's because it's going to get covered by that flower that I'm about to put on. So I will put a piece of foam tape on the flower as well, but you'll see in a minute that I'm going to use some Tombow mono glue just right on that little white area of the leaf. That way it just all adheres together and I don't have to worry about anything moving or coming off. It'll just all stick together and make me feel a little bit better. So I adhere that, and I'm going to do the same thing with that smaller flower over there. And you can see the little dimension that you get with it, and it just gives it a little bit more of a special look. And I'm also going to be adding a bit of a sentiment. Wonderful is not really a full sentiment, but I think it looks pretty enough and it gets the point across enough that you really didn't have to add a sentiment that goes with it. But just to throw it on there because we are adding a little bit more of an intricate design to this specific card, I'm going to be adding the have a and day sentiments, and I'm just stamping this in Versamark ink on some black cardstock, and I'm using a white embossing powder so it really pops. So when I put this all together, it will say have a wonderful day. And as I said in the first card, I didn't really find it necessary. I wanted it to be a quick card and show how quickly you can really create the cards with these types of stamps. But since we're putting in a little bit extra time for this second sort of step in the stamps, I wanted to add the sentiment here. And I'm going to adhere those off camera with foam tape. So now let's get into the third and final card that I'll be making with this stamp set today, and it's going to be a little different. I'm going to end up die cutting the entire floral stamp out with the coordinating die cut. So I'm cutting it on a 4 1/4 by 5.5 piece of Strathmore cold press watercolor paper because I am going to be watercoloring. I'm also using my VersaFine Onyx black ink because it is waterproof. I go ahead and stamp this again 3 times just to be sure everything is smooth and stands out, nothing is splotchy. And I'm going to speed this up again as I color, but I will be watercoloring this time. I'm going to be using my Zig Real Brush Clean Color Markers. It's tough to say all at once. Now that I'm pretty much done, I'm just going to run my heat tool over it a couple times just to make sure that everything is completely dry because we are going to be die cutting, so I want to make sure that I don't get any transfer of ink or watercolor or anything like that. You'll see I've already gone ahead and die cut the entire stamp out with the florals and everything, and also used the coordinating wonderful word die, and that cuts out all of the letters. I'm going to save the letters because I use them later, but I'm going to first use it as a stencil because I do want an inside panel as well so that I could just write a little something, like Love Ashley or something like that. So I make some letters that I can see through. I use the stencil, like I said. I'm going to tape that with painter's tape. And I'm using this on a clear acetate base. And I made this base on my own. I bought some off-brand heavy acetate cardstock, is it called? And I just scored it and it worked pretty well. I have not tried the Hero Arts one. I'm sure that it's of better quality because it's, heavier and probably holds up a little bit better, but I didn't have it on hand, so I just used this off-brand acetate. I adhere it with a permanent tape runner, and I've been using tons of different tape runners lately to find my favorite one. This is just the one I pulled out of my drawer, honestly. I cannot find a favorite. I've used so many different ones, but this one seems to be working pretty well. So now I can go ahead and adhere the inside portion. And again, this is just so I can write a tiny little Love Ashley or something like that. I keep the insides of the letters like the O and the D and the R. And now I'm going to take those letters and use the front. I should have used this as a stencil in the first place, but I didn't know I'd be doing this. But anyway, I just adhere the letters on the inside so that you can see the word, but also when you open it, the word wonderful is there as well. I hope that you've enjoyed learning how I created these different cards with the same panel stamp set. And if you're interested, my blog and all of the products are linked in the description. I'll see you guys soon.